Hello and welcome to B&D Associates Incorporated. Today, as part of your new hire orientation, we will be going over our employee safety, health, and loss prevention program. You have also been given a paper copy of this program. Please feel free to follow along as we go through this presentation. To start off with, we're going to talk about the Safety, Health, and Loss Prevention Program policy statement, which says that B&D is committed to provide our employees a safe and healthful working environment. This policy mandates a corporate-wide safety, health, and loss prevention program with the goal of providing a work environment free of recognized hazards. The following objectives of this program is to preserve our most important assets, which is our employees, by reducing or even eliminating the risk of injury, to minimize or even eliminate property, equipment, and product damage, as well as to comply with all federal, state, and local safety and health regulations. In order to achieve this, management will work to provide an environment free from recognized hazards in a joint effort with all employees. B&D will provide and properly maintain all equipment. Management will follow all policies, procedures when training employees to perform their job tasks. Employees are expected to perform their job tasks as trained and to bring it to the attention of their foreman when not job task trained. All employees will abide by all federal, state, and local safety and health regulations governing our industry. All employees will respect the persons and properties of owners, customers, and the general public. All employees will follow all work policies, procedures, and regulations of the company. And all employees will communicate to their foreman any conditions that are inconsistent with this loss prevention program. Safety and health is a part of every employee's responsibility, which is why we need your cooperation in detecting hazards, reporting dangerous conditions, and controlling workplace hazards. Inform your foreman immediately of any situation beyond your ability or authority to correct. Please note that employees will not be disciplined or suffer any retaliation for reporting a safety violation in good faith. Personal safety and health of each employee is of primary importance, which is why B&D will make every effort to provide mechanical and physical protection required for personal safety. But you as an employee are primarily responsible for working safely, performing your work as trained, and informing your foreman of defective mechanical equipment and lack of physical protection. Along with your proper attitude and cooperation, this program can be successful. The safety program coordinator is Bill Dettinger, and your on-site coordinator will be your foreman. Remember, communication is key to the success of this program. B&D will communicate our commitment both verbally and in writing. For you as an employee, your communication is important that if you see something, you say something. A good example of this is when a fellow employee is doing something unsafe. Please constructively let that person know. It's important to remember that actions speak louder than words. Along with this new hire orientation, you will be receiving periodic training throughout the year. We will now be going over B&D's general safety rules. For overall work safety, if you don't know the proper way to do something, stop and find out by asking your foreman. Again, if you see something, say something, such as somebody working in a careless manner or somebody using equipment improperly. If you are moving or lifting objects that are too heavy and too bulky for a single person to handle, ask for help or offer help to somebody else. Remember to always inspect all tools and equipment before each and every use, as well as to keep your mind on the task at hand. Stay focused and think safety. If you feel that you or any of your coworkers are not up to a task, please tell your foreman. Now for general housekeeping rules. Good housekeeping and cleanup should be a part of a daily routine. Remember to keep passageways and stairways clear of hoses, cords, materials, and equipment to minimize slipping and tripping hazards, as well as to keep clear for emergency evacuation. Access materials must be stacked with due regard to safety in allowance made for easy access. Whenever scrap materials is dropped from more than 20 feet to the next level, an enclosed trash chute must be used. Protruding objects such as rebar, electrical conduits, or marking stakes must be properly capped or otherwise guarded to protect workers from the impalement hazard. All protruding nails and lumber must be pulled out or bent over. Spills of oil, grease, or bulk cement must be removed immediately. Areas around saws and other woodworking equipment must be kept clean and free of excess scrap, chips, and sawdust. Paper drinking cups, lunch debris, and trash must be placed in trash barrels for removal from area. Remember, a clean job is a safer job. When it comes to drugs and alcohol, do not consume alcohol or illegal drugs during working hours. No employee may report to work under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Do not bring any alcohol, drugs, or paraphernalia onto the property. Prescription drugs are allowable with a statement from your physician. However, drugs that may impair an employee's ability or affect another employee's safety will be evaluated case by case for possible job reassignment. There will be no selling of drugs or drug paraphernalia or any related transaction during work hours and or on company premises. This will be a cause for immediate dismissal. When it comes to your conduct, never distract the attention of another worker. This can cause injury. Horseplay, throwing objects, scuffling, and fooling around are very dangerous and will not be tolerated. Do not remove any item, regardless of its value, from the company's premises without an approval from your foreman. Firearms and/or weapons are not allowed on company property.
So now we're going to discuss hazard communication, right to know, and we're also going to touch on the coronavirus and how to protect yourself in the workplace. So what's the purpose of hazard communication or the Minnesota right to know? Well, it's to ensure that employees and employers know what you're dealing with out there. Chemicals, toxic hazards, and things like that. We want to make sure that you know what to do with them, how to read labels, and make sure you're going to be protected in the field when you're dealing with some of this stuff. So how do we communicate the hazards of chemicals to workers in the field? Well, a few different ways. Through training, safety data sheets, and warning labels are the three most common ways we can relay this information to you in the field as a worker. SDS responsibilities. We need to have one person or a couple people that are responsible for obtaining and maintaining SDS sheets at all time. Now, as a worker, as an employee, you need to know where these SDS sheets are kept and how to access them. What's the accessibility of these SDS sheets? Now, as an employer, you need to make sure that you train your employees on all this. How to get them? Is it an online program? Are they hard copies? Where are they kept? And if you look at the last bullet on the slide, do not use hazards or hazardous chemicals if there is no SDS sheet available. So if you introduce a new chemical to your site, we have to make sure we get an SDS sheet on that's available to our workers before we start working with that chemical or material. Training requirements. When do we need to train? Well, when there's a new assignment. Whenever a new chemical or hazard is introduced to the workplace or the work area, and there's non-routine tasks. What should be included in the training? Well, what kind of hazardous chemicals are there? Different protective measures like PPE and things like that, and where to obtain additional information. So when we talk about an SDS sheet, they've broken them up into 16 different sections. Now, when you look at all the different titles of the sections, they're all very important to you as an employer. However, as an employer, there's a few on here that I believe and OECS believes that are very, very important that you understand before you should even be working with that material or substance. The first one is hazard identification. The reason being is you want to know what that hazard is. What are we working with here? What is the hazard? The second one that's really, really important to you as a worker is the first aid measures. What do you do if you get it on your skin? What do you do if you ingest an acid? Do you induce vomiting? Do you not induce vomiting? How do you wash your eyes out? So first aid measures are very important. That's a very important section of the SDS sheet. The last one is exposure control and personal protection. This is where you're going to find your PPE. Are you going to wear rubber gloves, nitrile gloves, leather gloves, goggles, safety glasses? How are you going to protect yourself from that chemical or that hazardous material? Now, like I said earlier, they're all very important, but these three are very important to the worker out in the field. You should get familiar with these three sections of the SDS sheet on any chemical that you're going to be exposed to. Now you're going to see labels on job sites, in a warehouse, in a lab, and these are the type of labels that you may see. An HCS label, shipping label, GHS workplace label, the NFPA 704 label, HMIS labels, and the DOT shipping labels with their placards and markings on them. So let's talk about some of the features of the label. First, you're going to see a product identifier. And then you're going to see a pictogram below that. It's going to be a symbol with maybe a flame or an exploding bottle or something like that. And we'll talk about what those mean in a little bit here. And then you're going to see a signal word such as danger or warning. The next part of the label would be the hazard statement. An example here, extremely flammable gas. That would be your hazard statement. There's also going to be a precautionary statement. And in this example, keep away from heat and open flames, no smoking, leaking gas, fire, etc. And on the bottom, you're going to have the name, address, telephone number of the manufacturer, importer, or any other responsible third party that had to do with this chemical. Now what you're going to see on a label or a drum is possibly a pictogram. Now there's 9 of them when we talk about right to know and global harmonization. And I don't expect you to memorize all of these, but we're going to go through all of them. Now if you get on a job site and you see one of these and you don't know what it is, a real good way to find out what it is just Google it. You can type in pictograms, right to know pictograms, OSHA pictograms, and you're going to get a lot of information. It's going to tell you what they mean. But we're going to go through some of them here now. So the first one that you see, it's stating that there's a health hazard associated with this chemical. It could be a carcinogen. It could cause reproductive problems. It could target your organs, things like that. So if you see that symbol, this first one that's highlighted here, that's what they're trying to tell you. The next one, open flame, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's flammable. That's the biggest thing that you'll see on a job site is this is a flammable item. Now if you see an exclamation point, that's basically just telling you that it's an irritant of some sort. A lot of times it's a skin irritant. Maybe it's has something to do with your respiratory, your lungs, your respiratory, things like that. Next one you may see is a gas cylinder. And this is just a gas under pressure. This would be like your oxygen acetylene bottles, things like that. We've all seen them on job sites. Next one is corrosion. So this could burn you if it gets on your skin. It's going to corrode, damage your eyes. It could be corrosive to metals as well. Next one is an exploding bomb. Again, pretty self-explanatory. It's explosive. The next one's a little bit different. It's a flame over a circle, and it's just telling you that this is an oxidizer. The next one we won't worry about too much, but it's not really regulated by OSHA, but it's just saying that it has some kind of environmental hazard. Could be damaging to the environment, the fish, the water, the trees, things like that. The last one is probably the most serious. If you see skull and crossbones, it means that it is potentially fatal. If you ingest it, smell it, swallow it, drink it, whatever it may be, this could potentially be fatal. So this is the one you have to take probably the most serious. They're all important, but this is probably the most serious symbol that you may see on a job site. Okay, the next 3 slides are just some secondary containers that I wanted to show you. And while we're looking at them, just think in your head, is this acceptable to OSHA or not? Would we receive a citation potentially or not? So this first one, we got a couple containers here, white containers, clear containers, I guess. Are these acceptable? Are they labeled properly? Are they stored properly? Something to keep in mind here. How about this one? A spray bottle. You see these on job sites a lot. Do they have to be labeled with the contents? And how do they have to be labeled? Is this one appropriate? How about this one? Now, it does say spring water on there, so this one may be okay. It does have a label of some sort on there. But what if we took the label off on there and we didn't know what was in there? It was just a clear liquid. Would that be acceptable? And the answer to all three slides is none of them are labeled properly. This one's okay, pretty close because of the water, but it's not really in a break room or an acceptable area, so we don't know what the contents is. Now, if you look at the picture, this is how you need to label a secondary container. It has to have the health hazards on it. It has to have the product name on it. It has to have the pictograms on it. All these things. It has to be just like a label you'd get on a drum, some kind of shipment of chemicals in, on the SDS sheets, whatever it is. You have to have the same type of label, and it gets missed a lot of the times. And also, I want to talk about if you're going to have one of these chemicals enter your body, it's going to affect you in some way. It's going to make you sick. There's 4 routes of entry. The first route of entry would be eating it, ingesting it, right? The second would be you're breathing it in. The third would be absorption. And the fourth one, a lot of people don't really think about, but it would be an injection. It could be an injection from like a dirty wire that had something on it, or maybe a razor blade, things like that. But I just want to make sure that everyone understands that there are 4 ways these harmful materials can enter our body and make us sick. For the next topic, we're going to talk about COVID-19 or the coronavirus. Obviously, that's why we're presenting to you today the way we are, because of what's going on right now in the world. And what we're going to tell you is probably stuff you've already heard, but we're just going to do it anyway as a review for you. We get a lot of information from all different sources all around the country. So we're just going to give you some basic information. And if you have any questions at the end of it, again, contact us and we can gladly help you out with anything you need. Okay, so how does the coronavirus spread? Well, there's currently no vaccine to prevent COVID-19. The best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to the virus. The virus is thought to spread mainly through person-to-person contact between people who are in close contact with one another within about 6 feet, through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouth or nose of people who are nearby or possibly be inhaled into the lungs. Clean your hands often. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not readily available, use a hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Eyes, that's a big one. People forget about their eyes. As you heard from me in the Right to Know, we can get things in our eyes. They can be absorbed through our eyes. So make sure we're not touching our eyes as well. Cover our coughs and sneezes. Cover your mouth and nose when you cough or sneeze. Throw used tissues in the trash. Immediately wash your hands afterwards. Again, washing hands is a big thing. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Social distancing. Avoid large groups of gathering of more than 10 people. And remember that 6 foot rule. And then stay home if you're sick. We always hear this regardless of the coronavirus, but make sure you're staying home if you're sick. Contact your supervisor and stay home if you are sick or have a sick family member at home. If you are sick, wear a face mask when around other people. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces throughout the workday. Discourage using other people's phones, desks, office, or other tools and equipment when possible. When traveling, discontinue non-essential travel to locations with ongoing COVID-19 outbreaks. Before travel, check the CDC's travel health notices website for the latest guidance and recommendations. And here's a couple resources for you. if you need this information later, we can get it for you. Just ask your supervisor and we can provide this for you, or take a minute now and you can write it all down. But OSHA has some really good stuff on the website at osha.gov, the CDC, the Minnesota Department of Health, Wisconsin, and the Wisconsin Department of Health. These are all really good resources. You want to go to these government sites that are real, that are going to give you up-to-date numbers and different things of how to protect yourself. If you have any questions, please contact us and we'll do the best we can to help you out.
B&D has a zero exposure policy when it comes to working with and or around asbestos and lead. If any employee finds or even suspects asbestos and lead in his or her work area, the work must be immediately suspended and the general contractor and or building owner must be notified of the situation. Our employees should then evacuate the area as soon as possible. At no time must one of our employees disturb any form of asbestos and or lead for no reason whatsoever. When it comes to personal protective equipment, hard hats and safety glasses are required at all times. If you are using a chop saw, you're required to wear a face shield along with your safety glasses. Earplugs are needed in designated areas. You are required to wear steel-toe boots on the job site, and you must wear a face mask and gloves when they are needed. When it comes to your clothing, no jewelry, loose or torn clothing is allowed. Long hair must be tied back, and you are required to wear long pants and a shirt that covers your shoulders. When it comes to fire protection and prevention, inside and outside housekeeping is imperative. Proper housekeeping will provide room for the fire department to maneuver when fighting a fire. Employees are responsible to keep the job site and their immediate work area free of clutter, debris, and other items that compromise the purpose of this program. Physical separation is needed between flammable and combustible materials and their ignition sources. This can be achieved by non-combustible or fire-resistant construction or having a distance of at least 20 feet. When performing hot work, a fire extinguisher must be within reach of the worker. Know the location of the fire extinguishers in your work area and know how to use them. Follow the pass system. Pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep. All no smoking signs in areas are to be obeyed, and on-site refueling tanks must be marked with what's inside. There should also be either a flammable or combustible and a no smoking sticker adhered to the tank. All gas cylinders should have their contents clearly marked on the outside of each cylinder. Cylinders should be placed on a stable surface and secure in an upright position. All leaking and defective cylinders should be removed from service promptly. All equipment should be inspected prior to use. Full and empty cylinders should be stored separately and protected from excess heat, snow, ice, or physical damage. When it comes to electrical, a ground fault circuit interpreter, also known as a GFCI, must be used. We are to inspect all electrical equipment prior to use. It is important that you watch out for power lines and stay at least 10 feet away from them. Use only heavy-duty grade electrical equipment and do not repair extension cords under any circumstances. Also remember to keep task lighting sufficient for the task at hand, and all your lights must be guarded. When it comes to using a handheld power tool, you should be trained and certified in using that tool. Remember to use your proper protective equipment when handling a power tool. Keep all tools in good condition with regular maintenance and use the right tool for the job. Examine each tool for damage before use and operate it according to the manufacturer's instruction. When operating a forklift, only do so if you have been trained and certified. The forklift must be inspected before use by the operator and not be used if the inspection process reveals deficiencies that could make the forklift unsafe to operate. The forklift must be operated in the safest manner possible. Adjust your driving habits and speeds to the surroundings and the terrain. Make sure you watch for bystanders and pedestrians. The load charts, decals, and indicators must be clearly legible from the operator's seat. If a forklift is left unattended, it must be properly parked with the power shut off, the controls in neutral, the parking brake set, and all attachments lowered to the ground. The forklift must be parked in a safe area. All operators must wear a seatbelt during operation if the forklift is equipped with one. If the forklift seatbelt is damaged or removed, the forklift cannot be used until the seatbelt is either repaired or replaced. When it comes to forklift attached man baskets, the man baskets must never be overloaded, and all personnel involved in the operation must be trained in the hazard and safe operating procedures. The basket must be secured to the mast, and a guardrail system must be up on all four sides. The man basket must not extend more than 10 inches beyond the wheelbase of the forklift on either side. All personnel inside a forklift-attached man basket must be tied off utilizing a personal fall restraint or arrest system. While the man basket is elevated and workers are inside, a certified forklift operator must be in the seat at all times, and the forklift must not be moved. Only up and down motion of the basket is allowed. On inclines, it must be assured that the wheels are blocked to prevent the forklift from rolling off, and a man basket must never be end loaded. Any excavations and openings in working surfaces must be protected with barricades or hole coverings. Barricades and or signs must always be provided as warning of hazards such as overhead work, crane swing, man lift work, and excavations. When a hole or floor opening 2 inches in diameter or more is created during the performance of a work activity, a cover or barricade must be installed immediately. All hole covers must be capable of supporting at least twice the anticipated load and must be secure from movement and marked in bright fluorescent colors. Good rigging is essential for moving construction materials and equipment while at the same time keeping them under control. All rigging operations require qualified rigger whenever loads are hoisted by a crane or derrick. All rigging equipment must be inspected prior to use each day by a competent person. Further, rigging should be inspected throughout the day for damage occurring during all-day operations. Never remove the load capacity tag of the equipment. Rigging equipment must be taken out of service if it cannot be determined on site what the capacity of the equipment is. Do not overload any part of your rigging. Assure that the rigging will be of sufficient capacity to handle intended loads. Check the loads just off the ground for stability before hoisting. Never leave a suspended load unattended and always use a tag line. No workers are allowed in the fall zone and must never stand underneath a suspended load. Our next slide is going to be about fall protection. All workers that are exposed to a fall of 6 feet or more to the next level should be protected by at least one of these three systems. The three systems include a guardrail system, a personal fall restraint or arrest system, and a safety net system. The main two systems that B&D use would be the guardrail system and the personal fall restraint system. When it comes to your guardrail system, your top rail must be at least 42 inches plus or minus 3 inches high. Your mid-rail system should be at least 21 inches high. Your rails should be able to withstand 200 pounds of force. When it comes to your personal fall restraint and arrest system, you should have a properly fitting harness that is inspected prior to use. You should know where to properly tie off, and there should be a rescue and retrieval plan in place before the job even starts. When it comes to the third system, which is the safety net system, B&D does not normally use that for a personal fall protection system. Reason being is because mainly these safety nets are used to collect garbage and tools, and they're not normally going to save a life in case if somebody does fall. Those are a few of the main points of the safety net system, though, if you would like to read them. Stairways and ladders. If there is a break in elevation of 19 inches or more, we do require a safe mean of egress, such as a step, stairs, ramp, or a properly positioned ladder. If the stairway is rising with at least 4 risers or 30 inches in vertical height, whichever one is less, we do require a stair rail system on the unprotected side of the stairway and a handrail on the protected side of the stairway. When you are using a ladder, make sure you're using the right ladder for the job and use a ladder only for what it is designed for. All ladders must be inspected before use. They must be well maintained and have heavy duty rating. When setting up a ladder, make sure it is well protected from accidental collision, such as pedestrians, vehicle or equipment traffic, and swinging doors. When you're using an extension ladder, the ladder must extend at least 3 feet above the landing. The top and bottom of the extension ladder must be secure, and there must be at least a 3-foot area on the top and bottom which is free from slipping and tripping hazards. When the ladder is pitched, it should be pitched in a 4-to-1 ratio, and it must not be set up within 6 feet of a rake or the edge of the roof. You can only have one person climbing up or down on a ladder at a time, and when ascending or descending, make sure you're using the 3-point rule. When you're working off an extension ladder, do not overreach, and be sure to use stabilizers or rubber pads to prevent the ladder from sliding. When using a step ladder, the step ladder must be unfolded and the brackets locked in. Set up the step ladder on solid and level ground, and don't use the top and last rungs as steps. There should be no sitting on top of the step ladder, and you should not be straddling the step ladder. Do not climb or stand on the braces, as well as don't leave the tools unattended atop of the ladder. Do not lean the stepladder against walls. When it comes to scaffolding, a qualified person must design all scaffolds. The scaffolds must be erected, moved, dismantled, or altered only under the supervision and direction of a competent person qualified in this. Only experienced and trained employees selected for such work by the competent person must perform such activities. A competent person must be on site to determine the feasibility and safety of providing fall protection for workers erecting or dismantling supported scaffold. Proper fall protection is required for workers erecting or dismantling supported scaffold where the installation and use of such protection is feasible and does not create a greater hazard. The competent person must inspect the scaffold prior to the shift. It is recommended to use a tagging system such as green, yellow, or red tags indicating if the scaffold is ready to be used or not. The competent person must train all users in safe use of the scaffold, and all workers on and around the scaffolding must wear hard hats. When an employee is operating any type of a man lift, they must properly be trained in the safe use and operation of the equipment. All man lifts must be operated within the manufacturer's specs and cannot be used outside their design. All man lifts must be inspected prior to each use and cannot be operated if the inspection criteria have not been met. All mobile man lifts must be operated on a solid and level surface to prevent a possible tip over. All stationary man lifts can only be operated on a solid and level surface and with all outriggers fully deployed. When moving or driving a man lift, the operator must check all clearances, must watch for pedestrians, and make sure that the travel path is free of any obstacles, overhead hazards, floor openings, and electrical cords. During the operation, employees inside the man lift must keep both feet on the platform at all times. To protect the employees from falling out of the man lift, the complete guardrail system must be maintained and the entry or exit openings must be closed as soon as the employee enters the lift. In addition to the complete guardrail system, employees inside an articulating man lift must also be properly tied off utilizing a fall restraint system. To keep pedestrians and other employees out of harm's way, the area below and around the man lift must be properly marked. When it comes to equipment repairs, only qualified personnel must perform any form of repairs on tools, equipment, and machineries. Only approved solvents can be used in cleaning parts. The use of gasoline for cleaning is prohibited. When it becomes necessary for you to work beneath a suspended machine or part of a suspended machine, it must be safely blocked or cribbed. Be sure all equipment and vehicles are locked out, the keys out of the ignition, and controls tagged indicating to others that you are working on the machine. All mobile equipment must have the wheels blocked before any work can be performed underneath and or around the equipment. Always give your wholehearted support to the Safety, Health, and Loss Prevention Program. Identify risk factors that can cause loss to fellow employees, equipment, and property, and report them to your foreman immediately. In Section 2, we're going to discuss your responsibilities as an employee. We're going to touch base on the workers' compensation program and on accident investigation. But to start with, we'll go over your responsibilities. You're responsible to understand the safety, health, and loss prevention program as well as to cooperate with the implementation of the program. You're required to follow all of the company's safety rules, as well as to walk through your designated work area and observe for situations and conditions that contribute to a work-related injury, property, or equipment damage. Notify your foreman if a situation is observed that may cause a loss. Suggest to your foreman needs for equipment maintenance, repair, and required materials. Suggest annual loss prevention objectives to the foreman or the safety coordinator. Follow standard operating procedures and make suggestions to the foreman for procedural change to lower risk factors causing injury and property loss. Report hazards observed on the job to the foreman or the safety coordinator. Perform your job task as trained. To exercise care to prevent employee injuries to oneself or fellow employees. When in doubt, contact your foreman for proper instructions. Give wholehearted support to the Safety, Health, and Loss Prevention Program. Identify risk factors that can cause loss to fellow employees, equipment, and property, reporting them to your foreman. You're also required to attend employee skill and safety trainings that are provided by the company. When it comes to your workers' compensation program, you are required to immediately report all accidents and occupational diseases to your foreman. Cooperate in filling out a first report of injury and any additional documentation necessary. And then you need to be able to cooperate with the company's return to work program. When it comes to the accident investigation, for all personal injuries with lost time in excess of 1 hour, you do need to complete an employee accident investigation form. For all serious accidents, contact the foreman immediately. Cooperate with investigation on all property damage in excess to $200 and document all near misses that may have likely resulted in lost time, work-related injury, or property damage. On your next page in your handout, you will see a copy of the employee's report of injury form. And after that, you will see a copy of the near miss hazard notification form. Those are just for you to kind of take a look at just for your own personal reference. Section 3 is about the employee's responsibility for training. Teaching safety is a two-way street. B&D can train and enforce safety, but it's up to you as the employee to practice it. Training will be provided prior to all work assignments, including training on specific hazards, which might involve special personal protective equipment. Throughout the year, employee training will be conducted. The employees will discuss the application of the company's safety, health, and loss prevention program to actual job assignments. This next section is about work practices and role enforcement. Our objective to enforcement is to educate and convince the employee to change a behavior to increase the level of performance. B&D uses a progressive personnel disciplinary system. First violation results in a verbal warning. The second violation results in a written warning. The third violation results in a 3-day suspension without pay, and the fourth violation results in termination. Flagrant work procedure, policy, or behavioral violations affecting the welfare of the offending employee or others may require disciplinary action outside the progressive disciplinary system. Therefore, depending on the severity of the violation, the company may choose to immediately suspend or terminate employment without prior written warning or suspension. On your following page, you do have a copy of an employee warning form, just for you to take a look at. Section 5 is about the return to work policy. B&D supports the practice of returning injured employees to work as soon as medically possible, to a position within our company compatible with the employee's restrictions. This program will be coordinated with our workers' compensation insurance carrier. The prompt return of an injured employee to a position within medical restrictions will regain a sense of job security, retain self-esteem, and help to reestablish the pre-injury lifestyle. B&D in turn retains an experienced employee, maintains continuity in the workforce, limits needless medical costs, and benefits from the employee's experience. We believe this practice serves the best interests of both the injured employee and the company. All injuries, no matter how minor, must be reported to your foreman immediately. Your foreman will report the injury to the claims coordinator within 24 hours and will assist you with the transportation to the nearest medical care facility. Our claims coordinator is Bill Dettinger. If you have any questions concerning your workers' compensation claim, should you be directed to this individual. The injured employee's current position very well may be modified to fit medical restrictions. If it is not possible, a temporary modified duty position will try to be made available that may be different from the regular job. Modified duties will be determined at the time of need.